Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this webinar dedicated to the quality in rail. You have just answered to the first question to start this webinar. I thank you for that. You have seen that you have to use the www.menti.com and the code as indicated on this page. We will have other questions during this webinar, and you can also participate on it. You can also ask other questions directly through menti.com in order that we can then answer to your questions at the end of this webinar. So for today, you will see now the list of speakers. We have several people presenting you their views for the quality. Myself, Bernard Kaufmann, Irish General Manager, will organize and introduce all the different presentations. Philippe Citroën, UNIFE Director General, will give you also the introduction linked to the European Year of Rail. Thierry Aimé, Chairman of the Irish Steering Committee, will then explain you the scheme. Stefan Ziegler, the RQB Chairman, also will express his view on this consortium. Ursula Tucker will explain you the way we control the scheme, and Maya Romero, the Irish manager, will show you a little bit what we have done in the last 15 years. So immediately now I give the floor to Philippe Citroën for the introduction. Philippe?
Well, thank you very much, Bernard, and good morning to everyone, and thank you for attending this webinar on quality. Well, the European Year of Rail is the key opportunity to promote rail transportation as the most sustainable means of mass transit, ready to face the challenges of growing traffic volume. To maximize rail transportation positive impact, UNIFE, the European rail supply industry, is working to push rail to the forefront of our daily mobility matrix by fostering a global culture of quality across the whole sector. The IRIS certification scheme, which has been founded by European rail industry companies gathered under the umbrella of UNIFE, is of course the perfect tool for achieving higher quality objectives. IRIS certification has grown into de facto standard for the whole rail industry. IRIS, as you know, is present in 53 countries, out of which 30 are in Europe. The large presence in Europe makes us look for collaborations with European authorities, notably the European Union Agency for Railways. We are keen on deepening our relationship with ERA in an attempt to foster the European rail sector with the help of standardization. And we are very happy to see that Mr. Doppelbauer, who is the Executive Director of ERA, is attending this webinar. What is also important for you to know is that IRIS is celebrating in 2021 its 50th anniversary. In a short time, IRIS has grown to a scheme comprising more than 2,100 certificates, but the good progress should not stop here. I call upon UNIFE members and European rail industry companies who do not yet hold an IRIS certificate to further explore the benefits of IRIS certification that it could give to your companies. Hopefully, you will also get further information and insight to the process from today's webinar. So thank you again for attending this webinar, and I give the floor back to Bernard. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Philippe, for this introduction. It's now time to ask the second question on Menti. Please use your code and enter this. After a couple of minutes, then Thierry Aimé, the IRIS chairman, will take the floor and will give you his view on the scheme. Okay, we can see a clear tendency on how the three main topics to be addressed. Thierry, now the floor is yours.
Okay, so I will start. Okay, so basically, yeah, we can see that based on the question that the business performance is something that we try to improve in our sector. If we can go to the slide just on even this one, I would say we can skip it, so we can focus only on this one. The rail business is also a safety business. and we have to take that into account. And it's really in the DNA also in Iris. We need to have a recognized system to take into account all the return of experience. That is also a key part of the safety and the quality for sure. And it's why what we have, I would say, in Iris, it's a clear state of art of the rail business, because in fact it's a long, for the last 15 years. In fact, we try to take into account all the return of experience of the best practice that we have found, and it's really something that is in Iris and also in the DNA of Iris. The second point is that we need to have a clear application rules, to have a professional assessment. It's absolutely key, I would say, to have no doubt about the assessment. It's really something that we need to perform as professional in order, I would say, to gain the satisfaction of our customer and the trust of our customer. And it's something also that we can see that was also, I would say, key in your answer. It's to attractiveness. And the attractiveness, for sure, in fact, we have the attractiveness when we have the trust of our customer. If we can go to the next slide, this system, in fact, we have, I would say, two pillars. The first one is the international standard, that is ISO TS 22163. And the second thing, it's to have a strong IRIS certification conformity assessment. That is, that will help us to be sure that, in fact, it's a real certification. And for that, we have a toolbox about the audit tool, the portal, and the database that shall be used by the auditee and the auditor. If we go to the slide just after, we can focus a little bit on the ISO TS. We have tried to do something that is based on the last, it's really something that is linked with the ISO 9000. But of course, we take, I would say, what is absolutely needed for the rail needs. And it's also a message that it's good to be ISO 9000 in the rail business, but what is really a must to have the trust of our customers is to be a certified IRIS, because it's really dedicated to the rail business. If for the next slide, that we will focus more. I don't know. Yeah. So for the next slide, what we will focus more on the certification conformity assessment. Three main, I would say, chapter. One is it's contained, I would say, the detailed rules for the enabler, for the process performance, because what we try to have is not only a conformity, but to be sure that the performance of our processes are here, because it's also something that we see at the top one of your expectation is how to have to be better in terms of business. So it's really something that is in the DNA of IRIS. And the second and the third point that is for me personally, I would say one of the most important. It's how to have an assessment of the customer perception, how to be sure that the customer are happy and with what we are doing. The customer is really also the art, I would say, of the IRIS management systems. What we have also is that in this conformity assessment, we have, I would say, the quality level that we expect, and we have a description of the process to be certified. And it's fully managed by the rail sector. Nobody else. It's fully managed by yourself. The next slide. It's true that we try to, I would say, a certification on site. But what is really, I would say, key for IRIS, and really what I would say the trigger of IRIS is to have a real impact on the whole value chain, from operator to the manufacturer and the supplier. So we try, I would say, to improve the full chain. And for that, I would say it's key. It's not only site per site, but really we have to take care that, in fact, what is within, I would say, IRIS, is to improve, I would say, the rail sector. We are fully convinced that it will help to have a business excellence and operational excellence. And I will not go in the detail of all the points here, but we can discuss that later during the question and answer things. So, and for the next slide, what is also, we have really, I would say, to take care that we want to gain customer satisfaction. For that, IRIS bring some credibility, some trust, some transparency in terms of communication, and for sure, in fact, due to the fact that we have the same system for the whole chain, in fact, we are able, I would say, to do some real comparison about the performance of the different companies. And it helps, I would say, to be better, and it helps also to know what are the competitive advantage of each site and each business. So really, I am convinced, and I think that we must be convinced in the rail sector that IRIS is a way to promote European industry knowledge and at the forefront of the rail sector. So it's really one of the key tools that will help us to be more strong for the rail sector. So it's the end of my presentation, and waiting for your question later.
Thank you very much, Thierry, for this presentation. And effectively, don't hesitate to ask your question. We will be able to answer this at the end of the different presentations. Now, here comes the third question to introduce my part, and I let you 1 minute to answer this third question. Okay, thank you. So I see the majority of the audience is certified, but still some are looking for more information. And this is what I will try to give you a little bit with an insight on the implementation phase of IRIS and where we are today. So next slide, please. So implementing IRIS, what does it really mean? This means I will get a certificate and so on. What does I have to do? First, I have to apply, I would say, the best practices we use in the rail sector, because that's also what was explained by Thierry. It's the part of the requirement in the ISO TS 22163. It's not a theoretical aspect we would like you to implement, but it's really linked to what we know that that works and that brings your organization a step further. Of course, as explained as well, we have aligned this in a worldwide accepted standard. It's an ISO TS. It's the same standard everywhere, and for the global supply chain, this is absolutely important. The lead and the control of the evolution of the company is a key point, as explained as well by Thierry. That's how you will gain customer confidence, and this means that by implementing the requirements and by always going one step further with an improvement and with the performance of your organization, you will accompany this customer recognition. Of course, the basis is how to monitor and to measure your performance, and this is the key aspect we are really focusing on since the last 2.5 years, where we are focusing on performance of the processes, but also since last year on the customer perception, how this quality and this service is perceived by all your customer, which is indeed the important element. And last but not least, this certification and this implementation shall be an added value for your organization. For instance, being also recognized by the rail sector, by your customers, as a trustful company, as a company where the orders are well organized, well done, well performed, and where the quality and the service which are required by the customers are fulfilled. Next slide, please. So in terms of daily business, it's up to the Iris Management Center, shortly called IMC, who has this task. This means we are on a daily basis in contact with some of you, with companies, but also with other stakeholders. We are coordinating the further development. There will be some elements given by Stefan Ziegler later on this point. We will also develop trainings for the different stakeholders who need this, principally the auditors. I'm coming later on this as well. We are controlling the respect of the rule, and here Ursula will tell us more in a few minutes. All this is supported by the Iris technology, the software, database, and so on, managing all the data to enable you the possibility to see and to manage your result, your improvement, but also to give the floor to your customers to better select the right partner and to enhance, I would say, also your quality by focusing the actions of the customer depending on your result, your strengths, and your elements to be improved. And last but not least, the Iris Management Center is also awarding the quality performance levels. And this is also a very important point, as we are about now launching the gold level tomorrow, 1st of September, after having launched last year, also the 1st of September, the silver level. A little bit data maybe now. Next slide, please. As mentioned by Philippe, we are over 2,100 certificates, exactly 2,192. And on this slide also you see the active company level, which is largely over 3,400, meaning that all these companies are the reservoir of further certificates at a worldwide level. And you see that the difference between the certificates and the members was increasing in the last 18 months, and this clearly because of the pandemic we are suffering about, because of course starting a certification process in this condition was not so easy. And this means that from now on we see since a couple of months an increase and new companies entering into the scheme, which is absolutely good. So all these audits, how are they performed? Next slide, please. We are here taking the advantage of a third-party audit and a very knowledgeable team in the different certification body. We are working with 17 global certification body, which are approved by the Iris steering committee to work out the scheme and to certify the companies. They are globally managing the auditors. They are managing the audit itself from the beginning until the end closure of the corrective actions, also managing the reports, uploading reports in the database, and also managing the Iris certificate. So an important partner, and that's also very knowledgeable at that level. Next slide, please. In terms of auditors, today we are close to 300 auditors, a quite stable amount, even when as well through the pandemic we had some auditors stopping their activity, but we recovered since beginning of the year with different trainings we organized. So these auditors are available all around the world in the 17 certification bodies. Next slide. These auditors are equally and all trained by the IRIS Management Center. So the knowledge and the way to audit and the inputs brought linked to the conformity assessment, for instance, is exactly the same for all the auditors. They are mainly linked to a sponsor certification body, meaning someone who are managing them on a daily business, but also some of them are multi-certification body and are auditing according their competences, as such as languages, such as technical experience, also for other certification body. We regularly update their knowledge with regular trainings, information session, and so on, but also they upgrade their knowledge as well based on their technical competences in the different fields of the IRIS certification scheme. Since last October, we are also auditing remotely, which was also quite challenging at the beginning, but today this is organized in a very smooth way based on a risk analysis between the certification body and the company in order to ensure that this audit is also done in a way where the results are trustful from the customer. Therefore, we are not seeking only to have a certificate, but rather to maintain the trust and the level of competence of the company towards their customers. Next slide, please. As explained by Thierry, we are basing our technical requirement on an ISO standard, ISO TS 22163, and this document is currently under revision. I'm in charge as well as a convener of the working group for ISO, and I'm now a little bit under pressure because I have to deliver a draft by end of this year. I can tell you that we are still based on the ISO 9001 document, which was validated to be prolongated for a couple of years, and this is a good thing for our scheme as well as being the basis of the ISO TS. Of course, the evolution which will come now is enhanced by worldwide rail experience. I have in my working group more than 50 experts, worldwide experts from all the continents, I must say, and putting all this experience together will enhance the next version of the document. This document will be a full ISO 22163, and is meant to be published by end of 2022 after the different steps of validation. Finally, after publication, we will also undergo an European standardization validation and to get an ISO EN standard, which is very important also for the European industry. Next slide, please. So my summary here is that you can see that this 15 years of experience in managing the scheme is very helpful today to manage a different situation, to have also developed the scheme in other areas in addition to enablers, but also to the quality performance and to the customer perception. I must say that we have quite a good stability in the auditors, in the assessors, and in the teams, which helps as well and can bring an added value to the companies. We are clearly performance driven today. In terms of result of the audit, but also in terms of certification and quality performance level. And of course, IMC, UNIFE, and all the different committees from IRIS and or from the International Rail Committee, Rail Quality Board, are supporting all the different stakeholders. So That was my last slide. I would now hand over to Ursula Tacke, who will give you information about how we are controlling the scheme, because that's important as well for the trust. So Ursula, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. After the IRIS certification scheme was developed and implemented, it was a task of UNIFI to create mechanisms to assure the high quality of the IRIS audits itself. And consequently, it had to be assured that the certification bodies follow the rules defined in the standard and in the certification rules. And therefore, the STICO defined 2 additional activities that had to be implemented, and we call these the so-called witness audits and the office audits. Next slide, please. During a witness audit, a representative of UNIFE is participating in an IRIS audit as an observer and checks if the auditor fulfills the requirements that are related to the IRIS audits. So we plan the witness audits based on our diary, and we inform the certification body with short notice to also have, let's say, a kind of surprise to being witnessed. As already mentioned by Bernard before, also the witness audits can be performed remotely or on site. And the witnesses that are performing the jobs are highly skilled quality specialists from the railway industry, and they all have international experience. And additionally, we have performed a detailed witness auditor training for them so that they are really familiar with what is expected to be part of an IRIS certification audit. So the witnesses check during the witness audit different audit contents, like the audit organization, the audit execution, and the audit subjects. And the results of this witness audit are summarized in a witness audit report. And based on the results of the witness audit, UNIFE takes either the decision to prolongate or to terminate the validity of the auditors. Additionally, it might happen that that also the witness audit results impose additional trainings like language trainings, or maybe additional other topics like looking again into the standard requirements. So every IRIS auditor has to be witnessed by UNIFE at least once in a 3 years period. Next slide. The second pillar of the control of the IRIS certification are the so-called office audits. In the office audits, IMC representatives actively audit the administration of the certification bodies that perform the IRIS certification. These are the 17 ones Bernard made reference to before. So we assess during this office audit the communication of the certification body, how it is performing its operational processes, and we also take a deep look at their performance. Also here again, office audits can be performed remotely or on site. And also again, we have at the end an office audit report that is summarizing the assessment we have performed. And if we have seen issues during the office audit, we are imposing corrective or improvement actions to the CB and monitor these during the follow-up of the audit over the next months after the audit. Office audits are performed once a year per every certification body. Next slide, please. As a summary, this high level of quality of the IRIS certification can be assured by these activities, besides others activities like the training of the auditors. And by this, we have a large trust of the industry in the IRIS certification. We see a steady growth in the number of IRIS certificates. And this is also important for us that due to this witnessing and the office audits, we have a lot of return of experience that allow us to improve the standard and the certification rules. With this, I finish my part of today's webinar and hand over back to Bernard.
Thank you, Ursula, for this very important information. Let's open now a bit our view to a more global approach. Stefan Ziegler will explain you the IRQB approach now. Stefan.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bernard, for handing over to the IRQB. So today, to introduce myself, Stefan Ziegler, IRQB Chairman. As Bernard already mentioned in his presentation, the IRIS certification is not only laid down as ISO TS standard, but will be soon a full ISO standard. And therefore, there was a strong need to establish an international organization for managing the standard, as well as including operators into the management of the standard. So the operators, as a very important stakeholder group, makes, for example, several operators make it mandatory to their supply chain applying IRIS, which gives a good move in several countries. For example, in Russia, I would like to point out on our Quality Monthly on Friday this week, when we can see, for example, Russian railways making IRIS certification mandatory for their supply chain. So next slide, please. This need made it mandatory to found the IRQB, and we decided in 2018 to choose the InnoTrans as a platform to have the founding ceremony with 18 members of decisive companies out of the 3 rail stakeholder groups, so equipment manufacturers, operators, and system integrators, to found the IRQB with 18 founding members at that time. And our mission is driving quality in the rail sector worldwide. I think it's important. It's really according to the international standard. There's also an international organization driving the quality forward. Besides the fact that the rail business as such is an international business and quality is an international topic, the supply chains are international. I think this is a very good motivation for such an organization. And we all believe that higher quality will ultimately lead to an improved daily rail mobility, which is why IRIS certification must be the seal of approval for our stakeholders. Next slide, please. So some facts regarding history. As said, founded in September 2018 during the InnoTrans in Berlin. We have leading companies in the rail sector who are really able to drive quality in the rail sector worldwide. Of the stakeholder groups, operators, system integrators, equipment manufacturers, with the aim of foster a global culture of quality. It's not only IRIS certification, it's also the exchange about quality performance data, best practice exchange, having various guidelines in place. All this is part of the IRQB activities. And of course, and the main lever is the promoting the use of IRIS certification system worldwide. Next slide, please. So the vision is to contribute to enhance the attractiveness and competitiveness of the rail sector. And when asking our members and as well having a look at the Menti you filled out before, the business performance is the most and first and foremost important lever. Only a company can be successful who shows a good business performance, meaning a flawless execution of processes, a stable delivery in time and quality. All these means quality. And this is what IRQB is supporting, and also by the further support, the further development and implementation of IRIS certification system, which is very much focused on business performance. In contrast to ISO 9001, and I will point out to this later. And of course, we will as well promote the cooperation among the relevant stakeholders along the entire supply chain. Therefore, we incorporate in the IRQB all 3 stakeholder groups and foster a culture of quality within the companies, along the supply chain, and on the interfaces in between the different stakeholders. Next slide, please. So the IRQB objective strengthen the trust, and both Bernard and Ursula mentioned, and Thierry as well mentioned, the trust is very important. So if you have a look today, this was also a reason for creating IRIS certification. For example, ISO 9001 is not really a trusted certificate. This becomes visible when you just count the very high number of second-party audits which are still carried out. So a company is certified, but even though the customer is coming along and is doing supplier audits and is double checking if this is really true, what is written in the ISO 9001 certificate, and we made up our minds and we're asking ourselves, what can we change, what can be improved, and what needs to be incorporated into IRIS certification, that this is not the case, and we're really gaining a trusted certificate which has a clear focus on business and quality performance. And that's second objective, reduce also the need for customer audits, because it's a trusted certificate is a very important objective of the IRQB. Next slide, please. So this is a very good slide showing what is the additional value of IRIS certification compared to ISO 9001. So as Bernard mentioned, of course, IRIS certification is also based on ISO 9001. This means has a big advantage that if you get an IRIS certificate, you get at the same time for no additional cost a 9001 certificate. So this is a very good point in this interaction, this link. On the left-hand side, you can see we are incorporating the requirements of ISO 9001-2015 on the left-hand side in the gray box under the blue area, but there are several rail-specific supplemental requirements in, for example, project management, for example, RAMS LCC, for example, obsolescence management, very important processes for the rail industry, which we need due to our nature of business. We have very long-lasting products, 30, 40 years in the market, and very big projects being carried out, mainly a project-driven business, completely different compared, for example, to automotive industry. So this is the reason for railway-specific supplements, which are already in the ISO standardized set of requirements. In addition to this, on the right-hand side, you can see the conformity assessment, IRIS certification conformity assessment. We not only have a look if the enablers, so the requirements are fulfilled, and nothing more is ISO 9001. We have an additional look on the customer perception. What does the customer see as performance from this audited company? Does it deliver a good quality or not? So in 9001, you can obtain a certificate simply by fulfilling the requirements, even though delivering bad quality. This is not possible with IRIS certification. So there's no disappointment from the customer saying, why is this company certified, even though delivering bad quality? That's not the case in IRIS certification. So you both validate customer perception. What does the customer think of this certified company, and what is laid down in the documents rating delivery performance, on time and quality, and the performance evaluation of the at least mandatory processes, but in general, having a look at process performance. Does it really work? What is written down in the process descriptions for the most important processes like design and development, production, the supply chain management, or even project management. So this is one very important pillar, trust in the certificate, based on the structure of the IRIS certificate itself, but there are several further tools and methods in place. Ursula already mentioned as well in her presentation. Next slide, please. So what we do, I would not repeat what Ursula already said. So we have the calibration of the auditors with the witness audit in the middle, number 2, together with the auditor's evaluation. We really want to ensure that an auditor who is auditing IRIS certification can be trusted as a colleague of oneself in the same company, saying, if my colleague goes and does an audit, I can trust him. I can trust also the IRIS certification auditor, supported by witness audits, by the evaluation of the auditors, by auditors trainings, as a general training and specific training where necessary. We have the validation of the audit results by spot checks, by regular checks, by KPI checks. Does it make sense what the auditor was writing down in the report? Not to forget the office audits, so checking if the CB does a proper job. And on top, we as well have the complaint process. So if we see that there are major failures in quality performance or in process implementation, there's always the possibility to raise a complaint towards the IMC and say, have a look, this company does not perform as it is written in the certificate. Can you have a second look, please? And in the worst case, even a certificate might be withdrawn. So a lot of activities, trusting in the auditors, trusting in the results, trusting in the certificate, ensuring that the worldwide implementation of IRIS is really measured with the same ruler, so is really calibrated. So an audit in China needs to be as reliable and as sharp and as deep as an audit in Europe or in the US or in South America or wherever in the world. And all this is ensured by this set of methodology, which is developed, proposed, discussed in the IRQB and implemented via the IRIS Management Center, who does an excellent job here on this implementation of the IRIS scheme. Next slide, please. So all this leads to a lot of benefits from IRIS certification, which IRQB is as well monitoring and checking if it's really the case. In the supply chain, we have benefits by improving quality performance of the suppliers, so reducing for the customer organizations the effort in the supply chain, having a worldwide standard for quality management, which is implemented all across the world for the international supply chains on the same standard, and as well by the possibility to reduce second-party audits in the supply chain. The business management system itself, second pillar, we have a continual improvement on the business management system, on the business performance. IRIS certification is very clearly business performance oriented, not simply fulfilling some artificial requirements, always looking at the business performance and at the operative outcome of the core business. Same here, visible in the performance. The guidelines are also supporting process adherence and process performance management, giving guidance on clear KPIs derived from the process internal and external customers. So the real stakeholder management, high transparency on business performance, transparency on quality performance, making this visible. Also, this is a good advantage, a benefit with regard to the customer who really support and welcome a high transparency on quality performance on the same standard, in the same language, quality language, that we have an increased transparency and trust in the quality performance. So lots of advantages from IRIS certification. A very close collaboration in between IRQB and the IRIS Management Center in defining, setting of the rules, doing the calibration, maintaining, operating the entire system. You can imagine it's a whole bunch of work in the back, what is done there. So Bernard only mentioned, and Ursula as well, with the witness audits, the IT systems which are behind the awarding process, all the performance certificates, and but we have a good feeling and a measurable calibration and validation of the system that we offer here, a trusted certificate which really have a close link to business performance. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Stefan. And we noted your invitation for the Quality Monthly webinar on this Friday dedicated to the Russian market. Thank you. Last May, as mentioned by several speakers, we celebrated the 15th anniversary of the IRIS scheme. We have prepared an interactive website to show successes and evolution of quality in this period with facts and figures. Maria Romero will now give you an insight on this tool. Maria?
Thank you, Bernard. So I will share my screen for a moment. I hope you can see it, right? Okay, thank you. So as Bernard said, it's been 15 years since we are managing the scheme. It's a very, very special anniversary for us. So we have decided to create a new section in the IRQB website. So this is the IRQB website. You will find this section very soon after this webinar here. You will have the link. And you will see the section is called IRIS 15 Facts and Figures. So here our intention is to show you a lot of very interesting data that will be divided in 4 categories. So in the first place, it will be the IRIS certification companies and their profiles. You will also have a lot of information about the audit scorings, the corrective actions that were raised during the audits, and also auditors and certification bodies. For your information, all this data is just for information purpose and also for transparency. And the latest things you will find here is from June 2021, but we will update this data at least 1 or 2 times a year, so you can have the latest information. And now let me go quickly through the sections. You see here, for example, this was shown by Bernard previously, the evolution of IRIS certificates and IRIS Proctor active companies. We have more than 2,000 certificates, and you see here the two graphs, and this is the potential of growth that we have. Then we have very interesting information about the number of IRIS certified companies by product and activity. So what we want to show to you is not the data in detail, but is that this is a very interactive tool. So for example, if here we are seeing companies that do design and development activity, you can see the scopes that they had during the years since 2012 to 2021. You can scroll and see the companies that do maintenance, and you can even scroll and see the companies that do manufacturing. As I said, this is very interactive, so you can decide, for example, that you only want to see the data of this year, so you can just take out the year 2017 and 2012, and you will see only the data of 2021. So this is a tool you can play around with, and you will be able to see a lot of interesting data. Regarding, for example, the IRIS certificates per country and continent, here again you have an interactive map. So for example, if you're interested to know what is happening in Spain, so we have 86 members and 49 certificates, and this you can go through the map and see all the information in all the countries that we are present currently. And in the end, a summarize of the certificates and countries. If we go very quickly through the next section, through the audit scorings, we can also see the audit score evolution. We will see it regarding the countries, so you can compare the average score with several countries. You can also see the score evolution per level, so you can compare the score of your company or the average score with one company that had the silver level. You can also see the average audit score per chapter and subchapter. And this is very interesting because if, for example, we go to the chapter 7 support, you will see that the average score is 65%, but you can also click on it and go and see the average score per subchapter. So you have a lot of details that you can dig in and you can see. You have also the performance evaluation scorings, and you can select, depending on the levels, the quality performance levels. And also we make a survey to understand what is the knowledge and understanding of the ISO TS 22163 requirements regarding the companies. So you can have also here all the information of what the company said. Then in the third category, corrective actions, you can also play around and see the corrective actions per audit and per IRIS activity. And you can also just see the year you are interested in. You can see the corrective actions per chapter, so you see it here. and per audit type. So depending if it's a certification audit, a surveillance audit, a recertification, you can scroll, see the year, and see all the corrective actions. And again, we have also an interactive map where you can see, depending where we are, what is the average number of cars in the country. And to conclude, we have also very interesting information on the auditors and certification bodies. So you can see here the evolution of approved IRIS auditors, currently almost at 300 auditors. You can see also what are the IRIS approved certification bodies and when they joined UNIFE. So you can see it here. You can see the IRIS auditor per process scope, and also in the end an interactive map to see how many IRIS auditors we have in each country. And as said, this link will be shared with you after this presentation. You will be able to check a little bit this data and see what is interesting for you. And we will be updating it from time to time, so you have the latest updates on the IRIS certification evolution. Thanks.
Thank you, Maria, for this introduction of this tool. And as said, I just want to highlight again, it's interactive and everybody can address the topic he wants and trying to understand where are the strengths, or even maybe there's still the weaknesses of the industry worldwide or by country. So please use it, and maybe it gives you a lot of information on how and where to progress. So we are at the end of the presentations, and when I show to the questions, we got really a lot of questions. So I will select some of them for our speakers and trying to answer those. So there are several questions linked to the costs, and I will maybe address this to Thierry Hémé. There is a first question saying that IRIS requires organizational changes, documentation, manpower, which involves additional costs. Is the customer willing to bear these costs? Or as well, what is a global cost for an IRIS certification? Can you give us some, or your point of view, Thierry, on the cost issue?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think it's quite, it's not a surprise to have this type of question, to be honest with you. It's like a return of investment. You spend €1, but you will have gain of 10 euros. So basically, it's what you have to take into account, in fact, in the certification process. And even, I would say, it's not certification. I think even the wording is not the good one, I would say. It's really, I would say, standard that will help you to be more competitive, to be more efficient, to have a real attractiveness in front of your customer. So basically, I would say it's a return of investment. Yes, you have to spend, it's an investment, but at the end, the return on investment is huge. And in fact, it would be also key to be and to remain in the rail sector, basically. Because it's clear that the people who are not IRIS, more and more, I think it will be difficult for them to have business in the rail sector.
Thank you, Thierry. Another question, I will ask this question to Philippe. There are various certifications for different railway authorities. Will IRIS replace these local certifications? I think this is based on the European different authorities we have. Philippe, can you say something on that?
Well, I think we have to, on our side, to focus on the IRIS certification scheme. Of course, there are other certification schemes in other countries, like for example, in the UK or in the US. But on our side, the priority is to convince companies to join the IRIS world. But for the rest, we are discussing with the other schemes. But for us, of course, we do consider that, and I think that. I hope you have been convinced by what has been presented to you that IRIS is becoming a worldwide certification scheme. We have 53 countries who are interested by this system, so we have to continue to focus on this and to convince and to see if it's possible to discuss with the others schemes which are already existing. But for us, the priority when you have 2,100 certificates already in the world is to show that we have to continue. And I think that the presentation made by Stefan Ziegler on IRQB shows that we are now working on a very good basis with the operators and the big operators. So we are on the right direction, I would say.
Thank you, Philippe. Then I have also questions linked to the presentation of Stefan. You said with ISO 9001, it is still possible to deliver bad products. With IRIS not. Can you explain this further? And there is a question a little bit in the same way that there is the goal is to reduce customer audits. Why are there so many customer performing process audits within taking a look at the whole system? Stefan, can you maybe give an insight on these 2 points?
Yeah, I would point out to the slides comparing the IRIS certification with ISO 9001. There are on the right hand side, if you remember, the right hand side shown in green or represented in the green color was showing that IRIS certification does not only check if the requirements out of the standards are fulfilled. So ISO 9001 is only asking for implementing specific processes, implementing specific requirements. And if you implemented this without asking the question, is it really working? Then you get an ISO 9001 certificate. We check the same to be sure that the basic processes are implemented, that we have a plannable quality, but we do something in IRIS certification, which is a little bit similar like a supplier award. We have a look if stable quality was delivered in the past, currently, and if it is can be expected that this stable quality is as well delivered in the future. And this is measured by these 2 points, customer perception and the process performance audits. So not only the question is the process implemented, but also the question is the process effectively working. Therefore, we have the process effectivity assessment report. And this is checked during the audit, and this is double checked in the desk audit and as well in the witness audits if this is properly executed. So you have to prove for IRIS certification that you do high quality business, stable processes, stable deliveries. And this is what is being implemented. We really focus on this, especially with the silver certification. I want to remind as well, bronze level is somehow similar like ISO 9001, checking the basic implementation of the requirements, plus of course the very specific supplements. But for silver, you already have to prove that you are able to measure customer perception, show your process performance, having transparency on this, and a quite good level already. Gold is even some higher. Since we introduced silver already 1 year ago, this is quite new, and we step by step convincing the stakeholders in the rail sector really to trust in, and this shows already good success. And step by step, it makes sense that and is visible that second-party audits, as process audits, for example, are reduced step by step because the trust in the certificate is increasing.
Okay, thank you, Stefan. Then there are questions linked to the training, which I will maybe address to Ursula. There is a first one, is it possible to be trained and qualified as an IRIS official auditor without joining any certification body? And the second is, are there training organized by UNIFE for internal auditors in IRIS? Ursula?
Okay, so referring to the first question, actually it's not possible to become an IRIS auditor if you have no certification body, let's say, that is borrowing its umbrella. So actually this is not possible. And the second question is regarding the training for becoming internal IRIS auditors. We are just preparing this kind of training. And it's under development, and I think we need some more time to do it. And latest with the upcoming standard, so when the ISO is full ISO standard and with the publishing of the new ISO certification rules, then we will be able to offer also training to the industry from UNIFE side. I hope this answers the question.
Okay, thank you. Then I would say, okay, a last set of questions, because there are really a lot of questions based on the scope, and I will take these. One is linked to the fact that if it's possible to also be certified for infrastructure such as tunnel, bridges, rail, tunnels, and on. That's not possible. We are focusing on the industrial part, and this is mainly linked to the set of requirements. I mean, the requirements are based on this industrial work. We have no question adapted to the civil works, I would say. Is almost the same question linked to the artificial intelligence and so on. And this is as well very difficult to address because of the set of requirements. We have very deep discussion in this expert group on ISO level, and I think today we are still continuing on based on the industrial part, and then there is a very interesting point linked with the combination between IRIS certification and entity in charge of maintenance, which is the scheme of developed by the European Rail Agency. They say that they have many same requirements, and for the company it is very much effort to get both certification. Is it planned to introduce some cross-acceptance or reduction schemes? Here I will really be positive on this aspect, because in a former European Year of Rail seminar in February exactly, we had a common discussion between people from the agency and from IRIS, and this was a topic of discussion, and this is effectively planned to try to find a way to have a combination between a quality performing scheme and a mandatory scheme for maintenance. Of course, we are also looking today on the development of the full ISO and the coming EN ISO, which is then also a mandatory step. And this is something which may happen then in 2022. And then we might again really work with our colleagues from the European Agency to find a way to simplify effectively this for the companies at the European level. So there are still questions entering, but I think that there are really a lot. If clearly there are precise questions, don't hesitate to send directly your question to the IMC, to the IRIS Management Center, either through the info mailbox or directly to me or to my colleagues. And we will be delighted to answer this question, of course. Now I will ask Philippe to conclude this session of European Year of Rail event. And from my side, I thank all the attendees and for the question and the interest you have to IRIS, and I hope to see you soon in the list of certified companies, especially to increase the European number of companies certified. Philippe?
Well, thank you very much, Bernard. I'm not going to add a lot of things. I would like to thank all the attendees and the speakers who have accepted to participate in this webinar. I think that one of the words used by Thierry were extremely important when he said the trust of customers or customer satisfaction. I think this is very important for the rail supply industry, for UNIFE. I hope that you have been convinced during the discussion about the potential benefits for your companies of being a member of IRIS certification schemes. And I just want to invite you on this 15th anniversary of IRIS and on the European Year of Rail to look at our website for getting more information. I think it's you've seen how interactive we have been able to build this website. So you're welcome to join us, and I would like to thank you again for the time you spent with us. And I was quite impressed by the number of attendees who participate in this webinar. So thank you very much and have a nice day.
Bye.